The wait is officially over, and baseball is back. The 2024 MLB season is here, and this season could be very special. So let's get into my playoff predictions for this season. So, here are my American League and National League teams making the playoffs for the 2024 MLB season.
The Texas Rangers versus the Minnesota Twins.
This would be the first ever playoff series between these two teams in their history. Last season, the Texas Rangers won the World Series for the first time in team history. In that World Series appearance, they played against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They won that series in 5 games. That was their third World Series appearance in team history, and the other 2 appearances came in 2010 and in 2011. On the other hand, the last World Series appearance for the Minnesota Twins came in 1991. The Twins did make the playoffs last year, and they made it to the ALDS against the Houston Astros, but unfortunately they lost that series in 4 games. However, in the playoffs last season, the Twins did win their first playoff series since 2002. So my prediction is that the Texas Rangers will win this wildcard series against the Minnesota Twins in 2 games.
The Seattle Mariners versus the New York Yankees.
This series would wake up this old rivalry between these two teams from the mid-1990s to the early 2000s. In this series history between these two teams, they have faced each other in the playoffs 3 times. The last playoff series between these two teams was back in the 2001 American League Championship Series. The Yankees won that series in 5 games. The Seattle Mariners will be making the playoffs this year after missing it in the previous season, and overall this would be their 6th playoff appearance in team history. They are the only current MLB franchise that has never appeared in a World Series yet. The New York Yankees will be getting back to the playoffs this year, after missing it last year for the first time since 2016. Currently, the New York Yankees haven't made a World Series since 2009, which is actually the second longest drought in team history, and their longest World Series drought was from 1903 to 1920. So my prediction is that this series will be a tough battle between these two teams, and I have the Seattle Mariners upsetting the New York Yankees in 3 games.
The Cincinnati Reds versus the Chicago Cubs.
This would be the first ever playoff series between these two division rivals in their history. The Cincinnati Reds will be making the playoffs this year, and currently they haven't made it since 2020. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have only made 4 playoff appearances in that period. In their franchise history, they have made 9 World Series appearances, but they haven't made a World Series since 1990. The Chicago Cubs will be making the playoffs this season, which would be their first playoff appearance since 2020. In their last 2 playoff appearances, the Cubs haven't got past the wildcard series, and they will be looking to have a deeper run this year. Currently, their last World Series appearance came in 2016, which was their first World Series title since 1908. So my prediction for this wildcard series is that the Chicago Cubs will win this series in 3 games over the Cincinnati Reds.
The Arizona Diamondbacks versus the Philadelphia Phillies.
This series will be a rematch of last year's NLCS, which is the only playoff series between these two teams in their history. In the only playoff series between these two teams, the Diamondbacks won that series in 7 games. Last season, the Arizona Diamondbacks made their first World Series appearance since 2001. In that World Series appearance, they played against the Texas Rangers. Unfortunately, they lost that series in 5 games. That was also their first playoff appearance since the 2017 season. The Philadelphia Phillies have currently made the playoffs in back-to-back seasons, and they will be making it again this year. Their most recent World Series appearance was in 2022. In their franchise history, they have made 8 World Series appearances overall, and they have won 2 of those appearances in 1980 and in 2008. In this wildcard series rematch between these two teams is that the Philadelphia Phillies will beat the defending National League champions, the Arizona Diamondbacks, in 3 games.
The Seattle Mariners versus the Baltimore Orioles.
The Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles have met each other in the playoffs once before. The only playoff series between these two teams was back in the 1997 AL Division Series. The Baltimore Orioles won that series in 4 games. The Seattle Mariners are one of 5 remaining MLB teams that have never won a World Series title In fact, they are the only team to have never made an appearance in a World Series. The Baltimore Orioles made the playoffs last season for the first time since 2016, and this year, they will be making it again. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Texas Rangers in the AL Division Series. Unfortunately, they got swept in that series. Their last World Series appearance came in 1983, and that was their last championship in team history. This AL Division Series is going to be a tough battle between these two teams, and my prediction is that the Baltimore Orioles will win this series over the Seattle Mariners in 4 games.
The Texas Rangers versus the Houston Astros.
This series between these two teams will be a rematch of the 2023 ALCS. That was the only playoff series between these two teams in their history. The Texas Rangers won that series in 7 games. By the Texas Rangers winning that series, they advanced to their 3rd ever World Series appearance, and they won their first championship in team history. The Houston Astros will be making another playoff appearance this year, and currently they have made 7 consecutive postseason appearances in a row. In those 7 straight playoff appearances, they have made 4 World Series appearances in that time, and winning 2 World Series championships in that period. Houston will be looking to advance to the ALCS for an 8th consecutive season in a row. This AL Division Series rematch is going to be a great battle between these two teams, and my prediction is that the Houston Astros will beat the Texas Rangers in 5 games.
The Philadelphia Phillies versus the Los Angeles Dodgers.
The Philadelphia Phillies and the Los Angeles Dodgers have met each other 5 times in the playoffs. The last playoff series between these two teams was back in the 2009 NLCS. The Philadelphia Phillies won that series in 5 games. The Phillies this year will be looking to go back to the NLCS for the 3rd consecutive season in a row. The Dodgers have currently made the playoffs for 11 consecutive seasons in a row, and in this playoff appearance they will have the best overall record from the regular season. In the playoffs last year, they made it to the NL Division Series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Unfortunately for them, they got swept in that series. Currently, the Dodgers haven't made it back to the NLCS since 2021, and will be looking to get back to that series this year. This NL Division Series is going to be tough, and my prediction for this series is that the Los Angeles Dodgers will win this series over the Philadelphia Phillies in 5 games.
The Chicago Cubs versus the Atlanta Braves.
The Chicago Cubs and the Atlanta Braves have met each other in the playoffs twice, with the last playoff series between these two teams coming in the 2003 NL Division Series. The Cubs won that series in 5 games. The Chicago Cubs this season will be looking to advance to the NLCS for the first time since 2017. The Atlanta Braves have currently made the playoffs for 6 consecutive seasons in a row, and this year they will be the 2nd best team in the National League going into the playoffs. In the playoffs last year, they played against the Philadelphia Phillies in the NL Division Series. Unfortunately, they lost that series in 4 games. Atlanta will be looking to go back to the NLCS this year after missing it in the previous 2 seasons. For this NL Division Series, my prediction is that the Atlanta Braves will win this series over the Chicago Cubs in 4 games.
The Houston Astros versus the Baltimore Orioles.
The Houston Astros and the Baltimore Orioles have never met each other in the playoffs before. Houston this year will be making their 8th consecutive ALCS, and currently the team has made 7 appearances in a row. Their last World Series appearance came in 2022. This would be Baltimore's first ALCS appearance since 2014. They will be looking to go back to the World Series for the first time since 1983. For a chance to go to the World Series, my prediction for this ALCS is that the Baltimore Orioles will win this series in 6 games over the Houston Astros, and that will be their first World Series appearance since 1983.
The Atlanta Braves versus the Los Angeles Dodgers.
The Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers have met each other in the playoffs 5 times. In those 5 playoff series between these two teams, the Braves have won 12 games and the Dodgers have won 12 games, and overall, the Dodgers have won 3 out of the 5 series rounds. The last playoff series between these two teams was back in the 2021 NLCS, and the Braves won that series in 6 games. This series will be a really tough matchup for both teams, and for a chance to go to the World Series, my prediction for this NLCS is that the Los Angeles Dodgers will beat the Braves in 7 games.
The 2024 World Series. The Baltimore Orioles versus the Los Angeles Dodgers.
This will be the second ever World Series between these two teams. The first ever World Series between these two teams was back in 1966. The Baltimore Orioles won that World Series in 4 games, which was their first ever World Series title in team history. Baltimore will be looking to win their first World Series championship since 1983. The Dodgers won their last World Series championship in 2020. So my prediction for the 2024 World Series between these two teams is that the Los Angeles Dodgers will win their 8th World Series title in team history in 6 games.
So those are my MLB Playoff Predictions for this season. What are your 2024 World Series predictions? Let me know in the comment area. If you're new, please consider subscribing and also hit that notification bell. And if you love sports, this is definitely the place for you. And also share this video with more sports fans. For more baseball videos, please click up here. And thank you so much for watching. My name is Nathan, and I'll see you guys all next time. Just keep loving sports.